So typically we kind of have a staid introduction to distinguished guests, particularly one of this level of distinguished.
That's funny.
This level.
My kids are laughing right now.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about a serious person here. He's a United States Senator, for crying out loud. But for this particular introduction, given recent events, we felt like we should go ringside.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please. It's time for our main event. In the red corner from the Sooner State, the Teamster Terror of Tulsa, three-name Markwayne Mullin.
That's dang good. I'm saying, if this fight actually happens, you're announcing.
It's like a blend of Buffer and Jimmy Lennon Jr.
I was going to say, Buffer's nervous right now. He is aging. I mean, he's a great guy, but I mean, you're coming up. You bring some youngness to it.
Senator Markwayne
you need to put the hands into it and I get in my face.
We just want to. I think we're going to get to a point where we're just going to drop the microphone from the top and have him just sort of like do the walk around.
But as I'm talking, you need to wrap your arms around me and put the mic into my face. You ever seen him do that? I want a hug. That's what you got to do next time.
Listen, I don't think anyone's getting in your face.
Well, I don't know. Talk to my wife. She may say something different.
Well, as you said, with 6 kids, you might be right about that.
Yeah.
Listen, clearly you've made some news.
Yeah, a little bit.
You've made some news. But the funny thing is, being creatures of the Senate, we've been in the Senate, and you have those witnesses every once in a while, particularly when you're in the minority, who have taken personal pot shots and then want to just sort of like distance themselves from all of that.
Right.
They want to pretend like it never happened. Like there's no accountability whatsoever. And it's incumbent upon you, because of the decorum of the Senate,
right,
to try to just ignore all of that. What I particularly appreciated about what you did this week with this Teamster's cat is he took some very personal shots. Very personal shots. And you're like, hey, bud, here we are. Are you still up for it?
Right.
And he still had attitude about the whole thing.
But he didn't stand up. And when I did he might have peed himself. I mean,
can I be honest?
Yeah.
When you first stood up, if you just would have stood up, it would have been one thing. But I saw when he stood up and all of a sudden he adjusted his ring, I was like, oh, shit, this is somebody who's done this before.
Do you know what was going through my head? I mean, it's funny now, but what was going through my head is I was like, dang it, I'm going to break my hand and I want to take my ring off. Because, when you're fighting all the time, especially when I fought professionally, we always wrapped our hands.
Yeah.
And even though you learn to punch correctly, where you don't break your hand
down,
this knuckle here is lined up with your wrist bone here, so it's like your sight on a gun. That's it, and everything's locked in.
Sure.
When you hit like that, it's solid as it can be, and your wrist doesn't. But if you come over just a little bit, and you punch hard, I mean, if you've been trained to punch, you punch hard, you're going to break your hand. And that's all. When I stood up, I was like, I'm going to break my freaking hand. So I was going to take my ring off. I know that sounds funny, but
the first thing I listen, as somebody who grew up where we grew up, when you see a guy stand up and then all of a sudden adjust a ring or something, you're like, there's a different thing here going on. This isn't just talk.
It's the man equivalent of like taking your earrings off.
Yeah, when the woman.
I don't. No, never had those. Something you familiar with?
No, I'm saying. Just catching strays over here.
That'll teach you to pipe up, Mike.
You know what? On a serious note, though, what burned my butt so much is, and this is getting deep. Don't feel like it's feel sorry for me, but I was born with my hips in, and my hips broke, and my feet turned in. And so I'd have my feet literally broke and straightened out, and I wore braces on my legs, like Forrest Gump. And doctor said I'd never I'd never play sports or walk without a limp and all that stuff. But I'm the youngest of 7, and so you're going to keep up with your siblings or not. But on top of that is I had a really bad speech impediment, and you'll still hear it. You'll hear it come out occasionally, especially when I'm tired
Really?
or hungry. Yes,
I've never heard that.
You'll hear it. There's a lot of words I just avoid because I can't pronounce them, and I don't hear syllables. So, it was all the way up until the end of 5th grade into 6th grade where I actually learned how to start speaking, but it also affected my reading too. And since I don't hear syllables, this hooked on phonics crap didn't work. I can't sound out a word because I don't hear it.
Oh, wow.
And so I had to learn how to speak by the placement of your tongue, which is why I'll never speak Spanish, because they speak Spanish on the back of the roof of their mouth, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of times when you're seeing me listen to you, you're like, where's he looking at? I'm looking at your mouth just because it was just a habit. And so I say all that because growing up, I couldn't argue with you and I couldn't outrun you. I had to learn how to fight.
You had to beat somebody's ass.
And so I really had a disdain for bullies. I mean, I'm serious. I had a real disdain for bullies. And this is what this guy came out. I mean, if you read his bio, the guy was suspended in 2013 from his own Teamsters that he was a president of because he was bullying, harassing, and threatening his own team. He was involved in a huge conflict with the chef film crew where 5 of his Teamsters got arrested for making all types of inappropriate slurs and intimidation to them, and sliced 14 truck tires. And then in 2017, the guy was literally removed by then President James Hoffa from the UPS negotiations because of his behavior. And
if you get tossed by a hoffa.
By a hoffa, that's right. I mean, how bad are you? And then
Think about what you got to do to do something like that.
Your next step is you get hoffa boots. Right? You get concreted because that's what the next, seriously, when you get removed, the next one is. And so in 2022, when he got elected, the guy says, hey, I want to bring back the mafia mentality, or the mob. He said the mob mentality to Teamsters. And then I thought, what a prick.
Yeah.
What an absolute prick. And then of all the people to go after, you're going to come after me? And I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm just saying that I'm a little...
No, I get it.
There's 99 other senators you probably want to deal with. Go after J.D. Vance. Right? I love J.D. I'm just giving a hard time.
J.D. might have a soft jaw, though.
But he is younger.
Yep,
and,
sure.
He's in decent shape.
Yeah.
But I just thought... my company, they tried to unionize my company in 2009, 2010. And this guy calls, greedy CEOs bullies. And he actually said one time in a hearing prior to this that you're more likely to be sexually assaulted in a private company versus a union company. And I thought, and I took that seriously. So I've hired hundreds of people. And they came after me, and when they came after me, they literally would show up at my house, show up at my place of business.
Yeah.
When I would do a radio program, which I used to do a program every Saturday morning, I used to do a radio program. They literally showed up and was leaning against my truck. And man, you don't lean against anybody's truck in Oklahoma. You don't do that. I mean, you might be able to get away with that in D.C., but in Oklahoma, I'd rather you talk bad about my mama than lean against my truck. And I come walking out of there, and I'm just like, are you kidding me? They would picket our job sites and say, shame on you. And we dealt with this for over a year, literally over a year. And he's calling us bullies. And I was like, wait a second, I've been on the other side of this. And I would explain it to him, and that's when him and I butted heads this summer. And then it just escalated to yesterday.
Yeah, so. Well, look, I can get that. But for the benefit of our audience who doesn't know your full background, and I thought you did a nice job of explaining in the run-up to all this sort of what it is that you've been through in building your business. I mean, this is not some silver spoon situation that he sort of lays out. You've put hard work in for many years, and for him to sort of suggest that you are just sort of like a greedy CEO who's just trying to put the worker.
Individual,
yeah. I mean, that I can understand why that hit a nerve.
It wasn't so much the nerve. I can handle that. People say that all the time. It's when he flat out said, you know where to find me.
Oh, yeah, that I knew.
Anytime, any place, cowboy. And I thought, okay. we can settle this. I'm done. And of course, I when I shot back at him this summer, and I said, let's okay, anytime, any place. Here you go, September 30th, Tulsa, Oklahoma, for charity MMA fight. What was not told is that his team actually got back to us and said, hey, would you be willing to do 1 minute rounds in boxing? I was like, sure, whatever. Let's do 1 minute rounds of boxing. Then they came back with another offer, and I was like, sure, I don't care, whatever you guys want to do. And then I literally responded, and I said, listen, I will wear boxing gloves. He can wear MMA gloves. I don't care. If you guys want to do this, let's do it. And then they went totally silent, and they didn't say anything else. And well, then leading up to this, the guy started getting lippy again with one of I'll leave the Democrat colleague out,
Sure.
but he goes, well, tell him I don't want to do it in public. We'll fight in the backyard. To which his buddy, who's from New Jersey, who's a congressman, goes, you don't want to do that either.
What is
And
he?
then I actually told him. He called me. He was with him. Called me on the phone, and he was with him in the background. And he said, "I said, yeah, sure. Tell him whenever. You do this in New Jersey's backyard. I got a backyard here in Oklahoma, right? Here in D.C. Well, what do we want to do?" And then he went silent. And then this was the next time I saw him. So this wasn't just yesterday. This has been adding,
building.
Yes, and he kept just going and going and going and going. And so I thought,
Well, and
I'm
his
gonna call him.
response was designed to antagonize.
Yeah.
I mean, he was what his response was like, "Let's do this."
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
you're like,
absolutely.
"All right, brother, you got it." And my second favorite part of this was Bernie.
Oh yeah.
Bernie.
When
He was
Poor
pretty
guy.
funny.
I thought he was going to have a heart attack, and I want him to retire, but I don't want him to get. I don't want him to go out that way.
No. It was so flummoxed. But he's like, oh my God. And then he was like, yeah, you're a senator. And the guy's like, can I respond? He's no, you can't. Like, he was just trying to get a hold of things. And then my favorite part is you did have total respect, despite our obvious problems with Bernie Sanders as chairman of the particular committee. You sat back down and heard him out, and the hearing continued, but yet you still kind of want to beat this guy's ass, don't you?
It's really not personal like you think. Like I said, I used to get paid to fight. Yeah. Right? So to fight for free kind of seems stupid, but I'll do it for charity. But at the same time, I was sitting there going, why it's bothered me, it's really not bothering me like, it's not bothering me so much as like it's personal to me. It's like you need to be punched in the face. Yeah. No one ever punched you in the face. You need to be taught a lesson. And that, guys, sometimes there's nothing wrong with that. I mean,
listen, we all grew. You're talking to three Midwestern dudes here.
Yes.
You don't actually learn a lesson until you get punched in the face.
And
the first
sometimes
time.
you just need to. And it's not personal. I'll go out and I'll have coffee with you afterwards.
Right.
We'll shake hands. We'll laugh about it. Maybe not that day if you beat me.
Right.
I'm going to try you one more time before we have coffee, but I really wasn't worried about the situation in this one.
No, I don't feel like you should have been. It doesn't seem like he's the tail of the tape seemed particularly advantageous to you on this one.
It was, but it's still not. A lot of people are coming after me right now because of unions. They think I'm anti-unions. I'm not anti-unions. You want to join a union, that's fine. I'm anti-thug.
Yeah.
And that's what this guy is.
Well, I think that's the important message here, right? Is that, look, I grew up in an era of Republican politics. It's a little different than today in that unions in the late 90s to, maybe 2015 were just entirely partisan operations.
Yeah.
Like you didn't actually represent the workers at all. All you did is funnel their dues to political applications that belied all of their values in a lot of different ways. And so I had a huge antagonism. Now, I understand how this has moved a little bit, and there's a huge component of the workforce within unions that are just straight Republican because they disagree with the leadership of it. But we've now gotten to a point where you still have leaders like this.
You're right.
Who are they're just straight partisans.
If you look at their base outside of, let's say, maybe Michigan, but you go to your Midwest states, your Southern states, you can even go to Bakersfield, California.
Yeah.
You go to those states, those union those union paying due members, right? Not the bosses. They're Republicans.
Yeah.
And I had a tremendous amount of support from the unions in Oklahoma, but we're also a right to work state. And this is a point I made later on in the hearing. I said, you're sitting there saying how good, because Bernie, the whole program was how great unions are and how good they are for the workers. And I started playing up statistics. The statistics are in a right to work state where you choose if you want to be a union member or not. You get paid $4,000 on average a year more than forced union jobs.
It's amazing how that works.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? So honestly, being a right to work state is better for the union members because they're getting paid. Their average pay goes up too if the non-union members up there, and then you take out their dues because they're paying 1 to 2% of their paycheck for the dues.
Yeah,
they're actually getting hit on the chin with it.
That goes to reelect Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, yes, that's right. It goes to go to get Biden in office. He's been great for the unions. I mean, and then
Keystone. Let's make that the number one priority, right?
It's another statistic that's interesting too is 50 years ago, 33% of the workforce was represented by a union. Mm-hmm. It's 10% now.
Yeah.
They're not. It's not working.
But don't you think that a lot of that is because of the historic disconnect? Maybe some of this in some different unions is beginning to close a bit, but the disconnect between the workforce and the values of the leadership?
Maybe too, but I think a lot of it has to do with the attitude. I mean, we're in D.C., so this may not apply to D.C., but how many of you guys wake up every single morning and say, I cannot wait until I get an argument today? I mean, that's the first thing you think. Now, D.C.'s different because that's what we do.
Well, Michael notwithstanding.
Yeah.
I think we agree.
I'm motivated by
You're made
rage.
well, but I mean, most people... Typically, we want to laugh like this and have a good time. Laugh about ourselves, make fun of each other.
Yeah.
We want to have a good time. But unions, that's what all the bosses do, is they stir up discontent with the people that's employing their union members.
Yeah.
I mean, and at some point, that gets old.
Yeah.
What are you doing? I mean, when they force you to go on a strike, who's paying you? The UAE or UAW, those guys that were striking, they were meant for making whatever, $1,000 to $1,500 a week to making $500 a week for 7 weeks. I don't know about your all's budget, but I would say most people can't take half or
tough.
3/4 of their check away.
That'd be tough.
Yeah, it's very tough.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think people just get frustrated with that.
Well, I mean, look, peacetime is a particularly difficult moment for professional revolutionaries, right? I mean, if your whole job is to try to stir up a problem, if people are actually getting along, they don't need you, right? I mean, and that's kind of the point.
Which is why it doesn't apply to D.C.
Yeah, there is no peacetime. Yeah. Well, listen, I think your career is worth examining here because you did a little early childhood stuff, which I find fascinating. But how did you get into politics? Like, how did you get interested in this line of work?
Frustration. The short story is I got fed up, and here's what happened: is my wife and I, we got married young. I was 19, she was 18. That was June of '97.
Yeah.
I changed my life around dramatically August '97. I say that's when I actually gave my heart to the Lord because I was pretty rough, to say the least. I mean,
no.
Believe it or not, I was pretty bad.
Nobody would believe that, Markwayne.
And so in September '97, my dad, he had this small plumbing company, and he wasn't feeling well. He had been real sick, and I just turned 20 years old. And he says, "Listen, if you want it, you can have it. If not, I'm closing the doors down." And this was the day after Labor Day in 1997. And my wife and I, we busted our tails. I mean, for 3 years, I had 1 day off total. I'm talking about Saturday, Sunday, holidays. It was February 15th of '98 was the only day I had off for 3 years.
I love that you remember the day.
Well, because it's the only day you had off in 3 years. You kind of
must have been a hell of a day, by the way.
You know what? The reason why I remember it is because I got current with some of my bills.
No.
I was on COD everywhere, and I finally had got caught up. And anyways, we worked, the company grew, we bought some companies, we expanded some companies. We had this one company called Mullin Environmental. Man, it was blowing up. We were working all over the place. We were manufacturing tanks. What we did is we treated water, and we were very successful at it. I mean, in 18 months, it was on trajectory to be my largest company, and we had people all over the country selling this product. And the EPA showed up. underneath a new regulation in the Clean Water Act, shut us down. We never had a single fine, ever. Never dealt with the EPA. We dealt with the state environmental regulation.
They just showed up and turned the lights off?
Showed up on Monday or Tuesday. I don't know what it is. But I was sitting in my desk on a Friday evening. And I had or Friday morning, I'm sorry, and I had my boys there because my boys at the time always rode to work with me. They were young. They were very young. And they were eating their McDonald's at my conference table. And I was sitting there going through my head, I got to have a conference call that morning with all the employees of this company because they were scattered all over the place, and explain to them that we're not letting you go, but we're going to transfer your job to one of their companies, so you need to come back in. Some of these worked out of state. So some of these are going to have to move to come back in.
Tough combo.
And honestly, at the time, it was Speaker Boehner. I didn't know who Speaker Boehner was. Guys, I was not involved in politics. I listened to Paul Harvey the rest of the story. That was where I got my politics at, right? I had no idea who John Boehner was. Not a clue. So much so, I'll tell you my first political meeting I went to. So he's up there, and he says that he's got a job package for 5,000 jobs. Now, this was in 2011. Like, I want to say April 2011.
Yeah.
And I thought 5,000 jobs. I said, man, you just cost 100 jobs. And that was the first thing I thought of, is if some faceless bureaucrat is making this decision. And I didn't own a suit. I didn't own a tie. I tell people my fancy pants and jeans I had was black Wranglers that I went to prom in, and I got married in those same proms with the same woman, and both nights were great. Right? They were lucky. they were my lucky pants.
Still, you hold on to those.
Yes, yeah. I mean, we've been still married 26 years. I still have those pants by the way, in my closet.
And won them 6 times for 6 children.
2 times. No. That's funny. No, I don't keep my pants on. No. So, but what I'm getting at is that I thought, that's what I'm doing. I'm going to run for office. And I went home and told my wife, and she thought I was crazy. I bet. And my first political event I went to, it was Dan Bourne. I don't know if you remember Dan Bourne
absolutely.
and I love Dan Bourne.
Yeah.
Right. And when I found out it was Dan Bourne, I was like, I'm not going to run against Dan because he was a Democrat, but man, he hunted. He was a cool guy.
He was one of the few that you could get along with.
I still talk to Dan all the time.
Yeah.
Like, he donated to me. I mean, it was just all kinds. So I was like, man, I'm not going to run against Dan. Forget it. We're not going to do that. They looked at a labor commission for the state of Oklahoma, and I was like, nah. And then I got a phone call in June of that year, and they said Dan's not running. And I was like, oh, crap, I'm actually going to have to do this. And so my first political event I ever went to was August of 97. And I stood up and said, I'm running for Congress. At that time, there was 8 other people that was at that meeting. I was the only one not in a suit. I was
2011.
2011. Yeah. And so I was the only one not in a suit. Everybody else is in suits. And I'm dressed like I am right now, jeans and button-up shirt. And they asked me if I was going to vote for John Boehner. I had no idea who he was.
You're like, who's that?
And I was like, well, it depends on who's running against him. I have no idea who he is. I mean, I had no idea. John brought that up when I met him later.
I'm sure he did.
He says, what does that mean, depend on who's running against me? And I said, sir, I got to be honest. I had no idea who you were. He thought it was funny. He just kind of laughed. And but it was just so raw to me.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, if I knew what I was going to have to go through once I got in office, I don't know if you could have talked me into it.
Yeah.
I mean, because when I first got in office, I was audited for 3.5 years.
Are you serious?
I had the IRS and Department of Labor in my office for 3.5 years.
Do you think Lois Lerner may have had something to do with that?
I talked to Eric Cantor about it. I talked to Senator Inhofe about it, and they said, man, you're being 100% harassed. That's what you're doing. They actually sent me a letter and said that if I do not give them heads up before I come to my own corporate office, that they could charge me for intimidating a federal employee doing their job. No, so I'd have to call before I could go into my own corporate office and give them a heads up that I was coming so they could leave. 3.5 years. They left my office the day Trump was sworn into office. The day. Didn't take anything with them. Now, we'd spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in attorney fees and CPA fees. I can't even begin to tell you how many hours that my CFO and her assistant spent, the thousands upon thousands upon thousands of copies of papers.
Unbelievable.
Not one single fine. Fast forward, Biden gets in office. A year after he gets in office, I get audited again.
No way.
I promise you.
Are you serious?
Promise you. And in fact, the audit just stopped this summer. And they finally sent us a letter and said no change. That's all they said. There would be no change.
So
and found nothing.
In the end, there's nothing.
Nothing. Didn't find a penny. Department of Labor didn't find nothing, which because we don't. We put everything on board. What I mean on board, like on top of the table. And the IRS never found anything. I mean, nothing.
But surely they gave you money to cover all the attorneys.
Yeah, that's exactly how that works.
Out of the goodness of their own.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they wrote me a reimbursement check.
Yeah, we couldn't take it from Markwayne. We got to get it from the Venmo accounts.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We'll hire some more agents.
They gave me Bitcoin.
But like if you're sitting around as a faceless bureaucrat, as you said in the IRS, and you're thinking about the conservatives to intimidate, perhaps a former MMA guy named Markwayne isn't your best target. You may create a little bit of a problem for yourself, as we have seen now.
Yes.
And what has been so astounding to me about your transition from just a regular business guy to not really knowing, even party politics or anything about that, to now a United States Senator, to having not only, and this incident, this is nothing, but what you're doing on a day-to-day basis is holding people accountable for a whole range of things and working hard on behalf of your constituency to a point where it's like inner motivated. You can see, we've been around the Senate long enough to see there are some people who they run for Senate, they want to become famous, they want to write a book, they want to get on TV, they want to do whatever.
I'd write a book, but I couldn't read it. So. I'm kidding, guys.
But like the moment this guy gets there, you just feel something different. You know what I'm talking about, Ashbrook. We were around the Senate for a lot of years.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. And I feel like you're the exact kind of guy that needs to be in Washington, because the Senate and the House are full of these self-important guys in Brooks Brothers suits who've looked in the mirror their entire lives and thought, you know what, I'm going to be in charge of everybody. And what you did your entire life was support your family, support the people who depended on you at your office when you were trying to turn over payroll. And there just are not enough guys like you in charge in Washington. And I feel like the more guys we get like you, the better off we're going to be.
Yeah, well said.
I appreciate that. And I will say that we do need business guys or veterans. We need someone that's had an identity up there. But how not to offend everybody, because you definitely described some of them. But man, there's some great guys too. It's just not the ones you see on TV.
Yeah.
It's the ones that are working, that's doing things.
Yeah, we say this all the time.
Yeah, the ones that are on TV are the ones that have aspirations to run for president, or if they're representatives, they want to run for Senate. I had no aspiration to run for Senate, by the way. Zero.
Yeah.
You won't find anybody that ever heard me say that I want to run for Senate. In fact, when you tell me, it would make my stomach sick. I mean, the last thing I want to do is run statewide.
People are lucky you did. I mean, people are real lucky you did.
I don't know. It depends on who you talk to. Don't read my Twitter feeds or X feed or whatever it's called now. It's, to me, when I first got up here in a house in 2013, I remember dates, sorry, but it was truly February 14th, and it was the only holiday my wife and I never spent apart.
Valentine's Day,
because even when I was working, she would jump in the truck with me, because I worked nights, and she'd just jump in the truck with me, and we always spent Valentine's night together. Which, by the way, meant one thing: it was a guaranteed.
Yeah, well, you were wearing your pants.
You guys follow that one.
You had the black jeans on too, so
always work on it. But this Valentine's, I was totally missing it. It wasn't a guarantee. I was by myself, and so I was sitting on the Capitol steps.
Did you put the black jeans on anyway and do some deep knee bends on C-SPAN?
I didn't want to run the karma of those jeans.
Okay,
I just left those alone.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting there on the Capitol, and I was really, I was complaining. I was feeling sorry for myself. You guys ever had those days where you just kind of feel sorry for yourself?
Yeah.
I was having a true pity party.
Yeah.
And I was like, what am I? It was intimidating. I mean, there were some guys up here with some outstanding backgrounds and just some crazy, degrees.
Yeah.
And what do I have to offer? Who the heck am I? I'm this guy that would rather be running my cattle, being left alone, running my plumbing company or growing one of the other companies. Because, we have a bunch of other things other than plumbing, and we got into banking and restaurants and we got into electrical and HVAC and construction and everything else.
Yeah.
But we got in a lot of other stuff. But really, who to identify myself is I'm a guy that can lose money really good raising cattle, and I make it back in a truck.
Yeah,
and so but it's this definition of insanity. This is the cycle I'm in. And I was just like, I'm saying, I'm being just real with you guys. I was like, Lord, why? Why the heck am I up here? And this sound out of my mind just like, grow up. Just suck it up. I was like, Lord, I didn't think you talk like that. and then I started putting things in perspective. We all make decisions based on two things. Our life experiences and the way we're raised. Yeah. Everybody, I don't care who's listening to us, or all three of you guys. Your life experiences and the way you're raised is a way you make decisions. Yeah. I don't care what the circumstances are. And I thought, you know what, my life experience is a lot different than these guys. I get it. I know why. And that's where the value comes in. Yeah. Is we're going to look at it from a different perspective. Yeah. And when you have these bureaucrats that are coming in front of the committee and they're talking, you have the Department of Labor coming in. You have the secretary that they're trying to confirm for secretary for labor coming in. Yeah. And you have the director of EPA come in. And like, man, you can't pull wool over my eye. I've been there. I'm still dealing with you guys. I know exactly what you're doing. So don't come flying off at me about how great you are and what the agency does.
I've seen the end product.
Yeah, and I like to say this all the time. Government's position was to create an environment for entrepreneurs, for go-getters, for guys that's going to get up every day and make something of themselves, like you guys. You're going to do something outside the box. You're going to be creative to be successful. Mm-hmm. What has happened now is government has begun to think that they are the solution, and they become the problem. And all we're saying is just get out of our way. I get there needs to be some regulation. But the heavy-handed part of government is what we ran from, and that's what we have become. And
you can't wrap every American in bubble wrap.
That's right. And it stifles entrepreneurship. Going back to bubble wrap. People are blowing up with their opinions about the idea that I was called a bully out on what he was saying. And I'm like, what do you expect? Before I was a senator, I was a guy in Oklahoma, and I've been that guy from Oklahoma a heck of a lot longer than I've been a senator. Yeah, and that behavior is still, as I go back to, you make life decisions based on how you're raised in your life experiences. Yeah, yeah. Being in the Senate in a suit isn't my life experience.
Well, listen, it resonates with a bunch of us, and we appreciate how real you are and what you're doing up there. You're welcome here anytime. Would love to make this a regular occurrence because you're a whale of a guy. I got 3 questions for you to end this thing, though. Okay. First
no,
thing,
my teeth are fake. I got them knocked out. But they do look good.
Yeah, they do look good. You got a hell of a dentist.
Yeah, I mellow them in.
Amazing. All right, so first one is, if you can plan your last meal on Earth, what would it be?
Macaroni, cheese, and little smokies.
Oh, my God.
Keep it simple, man.
You are so Oklahoma. That's unbelievable.
And I want Kraft. I don't want Velveeta. I don't like that sticky cheese. I want Kraft.
You want the powder. The
powder,
cheese.
Yeah. It's much better. Yeah. And little smokies with a little bit of honey sauce on them, man. It's stuff good.
It's like the Hungry Man TV dinner wasn't available.
Yeah. Whatever. Go to my house here. You're going to find Pop-Tarts and cereal and bam.
All right, so second, if you never got into this line of work, and now it's been, 10, 14 years, if you never got into it all, blue sky. But it's not just about, would you go back to doing what you were doing? Obviously, you loved what you were doing. You've expressed that. But you've got 14 years of life, blue sky, that you could do absolutely anything that you wanted to do. And you could manifest skill sets that you may or may not have. Like Ted Cruz, for example, wanted to be a power forward for the Houston Rockets. I don't see that happening.
Huge fortune. I mean, that is definitely going to happen for that guy. That is in his future.
So, but with the benefit of retrospect and your life experience here over the last few years, like, what would you do?
If I could pick anything to do and I could make a living at it, it literally would just run cattle. I love being on the ranch. It's my favorite time.
Huh.
A few weeks ago, we were weaning our yearlings, and pneumonia hit on them. It's bacteria pneumonia, which when bacteria pneumonia hits your cattle, they start dropping dead pretty quick.
Oof.
And my ranch foreman was on vacation, just convenient.
Yeah,
all the time to go on
great
vacation.
timing.
Right. And one of the ranch hands there, he called me. He said, "Boss," he said, "cows are dying." And he told me what was happening. So the mouths are turning right. And I was like, "Man, that's pneumonia." And he was new. He hasn't been on the place. I said, "Man, that's pneumonia." I said, "We're going to have to get the vet out there quick." And the vet came out there, a good friend of mine. He says, "Markwayne, you got bacteria pneumonia. So I'm compounding a thing for you, but you're going to have to work all your cows." And as I got 2 boys wrestling at Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
I got 4 kids still at home. And I called my boys in Oklahoma State, and I actually called John Smith, the head coach there, and I was like, "John, I need my boys home." And he goes, "What?" And I said, "Told him what happened." He says, "All right, I'll have to go get them for practice."
Really?
And they came in. My 4 kids came in. My wife was there. My brother-in-law and my sister-in-law was there. And my mom and dad came down to help. And, man, we worked cattle from 8 o'clock at night until 10 the next morning. And I loved it.
Especially with your whole fam.
I mean, let me tell you, my language changes when I'm working cattle. Okay, I get mad. I want to physically harm something really bad. Like that's when I actually lose my temper. But it is so fun because you get one of your kids get kicked, and it's hilarious, right? Everybody laughs, especially if you get kicked in the nuts. You know, everybody starts laughing at you, and it's just
by cattle.
No,
You
it
kicked
hurts.
in the nuts.
No, it hurts.
What do you mean it hurts? That feels like it could be a lifelong
Yeah, but
debilitation.
you laugh about it, especially if it bruises later. But so my point is that if you ask me anything that I could do, I would love to do that. I love that. That is that's my favorite thing to do. But on the other side of it, I love my employees.
Yeah.
I mean, my employees worked for me a long time. My CFO, she started me as just a secretary, and she's been working for me for 24 years. You know, my CEO, COOs, all of them have 20 years plus working for me. That's to see their lives grow, to see them come in with nothing and then be very successful. That's probably the coolest thing of all.
Well, it's a sign of a great leader. I'll be honest with you. I mean, it's literally the dictionary definition.
But you should work out with me.
I don't want.
It's called birth control.
Listen, believe me. I think I'm done. I think I'm done having kids. I don't want it to be forced upon me.
You think?
Yeah,
there's only way to do that is let's go.
Come on.
You gotta
This isn't about me. This is about you.
Yeah, I'm just saying. The way we do this on the ranch is we band them. We get this big rubber band, and we go around them, and we band it.
I don't like your suggestion.
We'll do it for free, won't we, guys? They got your back. They never said a thing.
They were all like, "That sounds terrible. I know I'm next." So no. Okay. Well, that's an answer. Yeah. That's a good one. It's a good one. All right. So the third question is, our view is, and this is a little esoteric, but our view is that almost everybody successful is motivated by one of two things: the thrill of victory or the agony of defeat. And it's not that anybody likes to lose or anybody hates to win. It's what motivates you to get to the next level. Keep pushing, right? So the iconic example of the agony of defeat person is a Michael Jordan, who like wins NBA titles, enjoys it for like 16 seconds, and then thinks about how somebody slighted him when he walked off the court, and that's what motivates him to go try to get another NBA title. The other side is the thrill of victory, which is a self-motivated person that says, "I think I can do this. I'm going to go out and do it." Right? And there's not, to be honest with you, it's a 50-50 split.
Right.
We've had 200 and some odd guests on this show. It's a 50-50 split, but they're all one of these two things.
So I tell wrestling in my family is what everybody does, right? In my family, you wrestle and like it or wrestle and don't. We're not going to be a Ford for any basketball team. We're vertically challenged. Okay, 5'10" is tall for my family.
Low center of gravity.
Yeah, and so I tell all my kids, even my girls even wrestle. If you're too afraid to lose, you'll never be bold enough to win. and because if you're too afraid to lose, you'll just hold on. You're just going to hold on. It's the guy that's holding on to the edge of the building and he won't do a chin up, knowing that eventually his hands are going to wear out, but he can't pull himself off that ledge.
What a great visual.
And so that it's constantly in my head. I'm going to be bold. I'm going to go down swinging. And if I do lose, I'm going to evaluate it just long enough to say, man, I missed it. I should have done this. And I'm going to get back in.
That's
get
a
back
thrill
on
of
the horse.
victory guy right there.
Yeah,
that's a thrill of victory.
genuine.
What was what was your go-to move in wrestling?
See, now you're going to...
It depends on what the guy gave me. I was really good with what we call a high crotch series.
Oh yeah.
And so
That feels right. That's it. That's exactly
Okay.
what my
Now
evaluation
they're making fun of wrestling now.
wrestling is.
So
A high crouch move.
I'm so
That
glad.
feels right.
I'm so glad you're here because when I talk like that, they make fun of me.
yeah. Oh,
Well, I'm going
But
to make
you-
fun of the both
but
of you now.
You kick his ass. So
well, you could too if you
Yeah.
wrestled.
Yeah.
I mean, he probably played basketball. Come on.
I mean,
Yeah.
look at how short I am. Are you kidding me? I'm a baseball guy.
I'm sure
that
you had a good.
explains a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
Baseball guys think they're the toughest guys in the world.
Yeah.
Like you hit a ball.
You hit a ball,
Okay?
and you try to chase butterflies in the outfield.
Yeah, I mean, granted, they will be tough with the ball bat in their hand.
Yeah.
But you better get one good swing because I'm taking the ball bat out of your hand otherwise.
Well, we're charging the mound. We're charging the mound. And to
Nolan
be honest
Ryan's the
with
only
you,
one with a good
look,
punch I've ever
take-
seen in baseball.
I take great comfort knowing the most effeminate thing that I did was wear stirrups, whereas you guys had singlets. And
Okay.
you know, and then like a move
Yeah,
is
my
a high
wife- hey,
crotch
yeah.
when you're putting somebody's stuff right in your face, and you're like, "Hey,
can
I
I just-
won! I won!" That
Yeah.
doesn't feel like winning to me.
My wife put on stirrups once too to deliver my kids. So, whatever.
He got you there.
Markwayne Mullin, ladies and gentlemen. I love it. Listen, you're welcome here anytime. This has been a pleasure. For those people wanting to follow along with what you're doing or help you out, where do they go?
That official or campaign? I don't know.
Do both.
Well, we're here to serve. I wake up every morning and say, love the people, love the call. No joke. That's what I do. If you need anything, I don't care if you're in the state or not. It's mullin.house.gov. And
Senate.
we're there.
Dot Senate.
Dot house. Yeah.
Jeez, I mean, listen.
See, listen. Mullin at Senate.
Dot
Is it-
Senate.
Is that
dot
right?
gov.
What is it? Mullin.senate.gov.
See,
you
you're
know it
lucky.
better than I do.
You're lucky you're around us Senate
Yes,
guys. You
guys
graduated
yeah,
out
you
of
grabbed
that
it.
place.
Because, I mean, and I'm serious by this. I enjoy helping people. I know that's funny.
Yeah.
But when you help this veteran or this person that
Yeah.
I was at I was with our troops in Djibouti, Africa.
Yeah.
Djibouti.
Djibouti.
That's what it's called. Djibouti. We're,
And he's the one guy on the plane, by the way, that laughed at that.
Oh,
The way they
100%.
landed.
I still laugh about it. I told my kids, and they're like, "You're going where, Dad? You're going to my booty?" No, I'm kidding. So we were there visiting our troops. We had 1,200 National Guardsmen that's been deployed there, and so we spent last weekend. We spent Veterans Day with them, and a lady walked up to me and she said, "Sir, can I take a picture with you?" And she was a young lady, and I said, "Sure, absolutely." She said, "I just want to tell you first of all, thank you." And I said, "Okay." She said, "You helped my dad get his benefits back,
Dude.
and she said it literally changed our life."
Yeah.
And I didn't know this lady, and I said, "Where are you from?" And she said, "Mogi." And I thought, man, that's why you do it.
Yeah.
That right there is just cool. So when
One of those
I say
moments
that,
carries you for a year.
yeah, 100%.
You know? Yeah.
That's why I say love the people, love the call. I'm serious.
Yeah.
I don't care where you're at. I don't care, what state you're in. If we can help, just holler at us. Let's go to work.
I love it. Listen, you're doing this for all the right reasons. Senator Markwayne Mullin, thank you for coming
Thanks,
in.
brother. Appreciate it.